Minecraft. I play it, you probably play it, chances are this thing probably plays it too. And if your computer can run Java and, OpenGL graphics, chances are it can play Minecraft as well. But can we run Minecraft on a 90 megahertz Pentium and an S3 ViRGE? That's what we're going to be checking out in this video, so stay tuned. So, regarding hardware, I am once again using the Asus P5A-B motherboard, and even though for the rest of this video, eventually I'm going to be using this 90 megahertz Pentium, for now I am using a AMD K6 Plus, just for the sake of my sanity. I've already set the jumpers to match it and all. And then the other hardware that I'm using here is the graphics card, and it is the S3 ViRGE DX, one of the worst 3D capable graphics cards known to exist, along with 1.5 gigabytes of 133 megahertz SD RAM. And the RAM, as far as that goes, is probably the one thing that's actually capable of running Minecraft without any fancy tricks or anything. But this board is only going to see 768 megabytes of it, so whatever. Anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and put the cooler on, and then we'll cut over to the plastic table I use as a test bench. I just realized that I set the front side bus jumpers wrong. I have them switched around. Just move those over a notch. And now we have it. Alright, so I have everything hooked up, including a Western Digital Caviar that we will be installing Windows 98 to. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get stuff installed. And you might notice that I'm using the old screen that I used to use in my earlier videos. That's because the widescreen display that I was using up until my previous video kind of kicked the bucket, so yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and boot from CD-ROM, and we'll get Windows 98 set up. So, now that we have Windows 98 installed, the first thing that we're going to want to do is get some USB mass storage drivers installed. So we're just going to put this disk in the floppy drive, open up my computer, and head on over to the disk. And the driver that we're using specifically is this one, New USB version 3.6e. And you can usually find it pretty easily on the internet just by searching it up, so just let it load up. There we go. So just click yes. Now restart the computer. From here we can eject the floppy disk. And where did I put that flash drive? Here it is. So yeah, we just have a USB flash drive. And I will mention that this system does not have any sound output. at the moment, so I mean I can use this USB dongle, but I don't feel like installing any more drivers right now, even though Windows 98 does natively support it. Because whether or not Minecraft works or not, either way, I don't think that's going to matter as much whether or not I can get sound working, so well, yeah, I know that I ejected the floppy disk. Skip that screen. We'll go ahead and plug the flash drive in now. I think I might have accidentally locked up the system. Okay, quick restart time. Gotta love working with old computers. You never know when something's gonna go wrong. Let's zoom out a tiny bit. There we go. And I'm just gonna eject the Windows 98 disk as well. I think because of that crash, we will have to go through, scan disk, just real quick. And we're back to booting. Hopefully that crash didn't corrupt the flash drive like that other time. Did not detect a mouse attached? What? I do have a mouse attached. Did my USB card just die from that crash? Oh, no, it's just redetecting. I guess something happened that made it suddenly uninstall the card. I don't know. This didn't happen when I was just doing previous testing. Why'd it freeze again? Oh, no, not frozen. Okay. It's just taking its sweet time, I guess. And the mouse still isn't working. Don't know what's up with that. Let's try unplugging and plugging back in the mouse. Still not working. Let's see if it sees the flash drive. It does not. Okay, what is happening? Let's just quickly reseat this card. Start the computer back up again. Gotta love Murphy's Law. Let's see if the mouse works this time on the USB card and stuff. That was kind of weird how it stopped working. Okay, there we go, now it works again, and it looks like it sees the flash drive too. So now that we have the drivers installed, we can go ahead and install the other stuff. And I'll also get rid of this Windows 98 screen. Close, close. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, thanks Windows 98. So before I do anything, I'm also going to transfer these over to the desktop and change the resolution to be something a little bit less cramped. So 1024 by 768 is something the card can handle. Yes. Close that. So I'm just going to go ahead and open hardware info 32. and just give a quick rundown of what the card and just the rest of the system features. So yeah, you can see right here, I'm not sure how well that's going to come across on the phone, but I'll just read it out to you. AMD K63 Plus at 550 megahertz. We have the 1.5 gigabytes of RAM, though only 768 megabytes is usable by the system, thanks to the chipset limitations. And our graphics card is the S3 ViRGE DX, which uses the 86C375 core and runs at 50 megahertz with 4 megabytes of VRAM. So just close that. And another thing that I want to note is right now, as you can see, there is no OpenGL acceleration. It's just using the GDI generic core. And I'm also going to have to quickly change the folder options. Give me a moment. View, show all files, apply. There we go, now that's usable. And I can just drag this over to here. And this is the S3 Mesa core, well, not core, wrapper, written by Brian Paul, the founder of the Mesa project. And you can see right here, it does in fact require the S3D toolkit, or whatever it's called, because this wrapper is not a software OpenGL driver, but rather it wraps, hence the name, OpenGL to S3's own so-called S3D API. So this means that as a result, we will have to install some drivers. So just in order, we'll just start with the ViRGE Super Unified driver up here. You can find that by Googling on the internet. And we'll go into Device Manager, Properties, Driver, Update Driver, Specify Location, Display, Have Disk, Browse, and then we'll go on over to the flash drive, Worst Minecraft Machine, install these first, ViRGE Super Uni, and use the S3 ViRGE.inf file. Click OK, OK again, next, and when it complains about not being able to find a file, just click OK again. It'll find it anyway regardless for some reason. And now, wait for it to finish up, and we'll restart. Click yes. Wait for the reboot to happen. And here we go, we're back in the system. Let's just drag this file over here. Yes, I know that Windows 98 does this weird thing where after the restart, if you leave the flash drive plugged in, it'll map that to the D drive and change the CD drive to E. Anyway, now that the driver is installed, if we click GL info, you'll see the screen flicker for a moment, and you can see that now we have accelerated OpenGL, and this is done in hardware rather than software rendering. So you can see right here, vendor Brian Paul from the Mesa project. So the renderer string is Mesa S3GL version 0.1, and even though it's only OpenGL 1.1, or I guess Mesa 2.6, it is still just enough to get Minecraft running. So next up, we'll have to install some other stuff as well. So we're going to install the Microsoft MSI Windows Installer 2.0 engine thing. Click yes. And that's just so that then we can install Java 6 because the installer for that does require Windows Installer 2.0. And after that, we'll also go ahead and install kernel EX because we will need that in order to get things to run properly. Lots of restarting, as you can see. And this time, since the flash drive is still mapped to D, we should just have the window reopen. Yep, it does that. So we're going to next install Unicode, which is the Unicode layer for Windows, because kernel EX needs that, and we'll type in C Windows System as the path to extract it to, because otherwise kernel EX will complain about it. So now we can go ahead and install kernel EX. We'll just click agree to everything, let it run, enable kernel EX extensions for all applications. Next, reboot now, finish, and we'll reboot yet again. Alright, there's the successful installation message for kernel EX. So, next up we will have to quickly take a detour away from installing things and dump our .minecraft folder into the Windows folder of all places, because Windows 98, despite having an application data folder right there, apparently doesn't use it when you're trying to run Minecraft. And I will also mention that in the Minecraft folder, I'm going to be using the old pre-1.6 launcher, and that does mean that I will need this last login file, which is, as you can see, generated from 2013, back when I first made my Minecraft account. And yeah, if you don't have such a file, you're going to have to use either an alternative launcher that supports Microsoft accounts, because, you know, Mojang accounts are kind of broken now. Or you're going to have to find a cracked account, or not cracked account, cracked launcher. So, yeah, just a little heads up to know ahead of time. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. Performance with the S3 Mesa driver is actually pretty decent. I mean, right now it's a little bit slow considering how I'm copying files, but as you can see right here, we've got pretty okay frame rates for just these spinning gears. It's not a, like, in-depth benchmark of any kind, obviously, but it's a good sign of what's to come for Minecraft. And my phone is running out of power. Okay, I'm just gonna have to charge this thing real quick. So I'll just cut back to you when it's done copying files, because it's gonna take a while. Okay, and it looks like we have our files finished copying, so now we'll go back to the install this first folder and install Java 6. Give it a moment. It does take a few seconds for the installer to actually load up. This is a CPU running at only 550 megahertz after all, and even then that's actually a 100 megahertz overclock that is only rated at 450. Okay, and here we go. We can just bypass the "this is not a supported operating system" thing by clicking continue. We'll click accept. And I know that even though Java 6 does natively support Windows 98, I so far have not been able to replicate it with, well, replicate the whole Minecraft on, you know, this hardware sort of stuff without kernel EX installed. So I think there is maybe some functionality in Java 6 that requires kernel EX to properly function. Anyway, we'll just wait for that to finish. And click finish. We can just close out of this window now. Go up. And now we just copy the pre-1.6 Minecraft launcher to desktop. And just as a demonstration, I'm gonna delete the OpenGL 32 file just to show what happens when you try and run Minecraft without it. Because the way that wrappers work is that it tricks the game executable into using that dull file that we just deleted, rather than the systems.dll file. So we'll just log in and stuff for the moment, and you'll see right there. Okay, that is terribly washed out. You'll see right there. Come on, phone. There we go. Pixel format not accelerated. And that's a very common issue that people will see when, you know, using a graphics card with outdated or no driver at all. But in this case, it's because the driver natively does not actually support any kind of OpenGL. So if we close that, go into our recycle bin, and take the OpenGL 32 file back out of it, then when we start Minecraft back up again, and click log in, play offline. If you give it a minute or two, you'll see what happens. And there we go. It's loading into a world. And well, you can clearly see that something is wrong. Like, yeah, Brian Paul is the founder of the Mesa project and all, with, you know, the OpenGL compatibility everywhere and stuff. But yeah, this implementation of the Mesa OpenGL stuff, and I will say this real quick as a preface, Mesa is not OpenGL, it's just compatible with OpenGL. But yeah, clearly there's something that went wrong in translating the OpenGL calls that Minecraft is emitting here and turning them into S3D calls for, you know, the S3 ViRGE to do. And another thing that I will mention is that if you maximize the window, it will crash because the card will run out of VRAM. And because it's already, you know, doing this, I'm just gonna go ahead and maximize it right now. And there we go. Just like that. Now you can see the error message says S3 Mesa couldn't allocate memory for Z buffer in video memory. And it tries to switch into software OpenGL, which is, you know, the fallback mode and what Mesa normally would do. But instead it just kind of crashes, as you can see. So now we'll just have to restart Minecraft and do that all over again, but it's really not too big of an issue, honestly. Like, it's still trying, but it's not exactly getting very far now. It's just a black screen. So, oh yeah, I forgot. It crashes the operating system too. Yeah, can't do anything. Let's try just force closing it. Yep. I forgot that that happens. Okay. And task. Okay, and we are back to a thankfully responsive Windows 98. Okay, so now that we know that that crashes the game, we cannot resize the window any bigger than the default window size. And that black screen is just it loading into, you know, the S3 Mesa driver. You saw that happen earlier when I was showing it off with GL info. And that's just it, you know, switching over into the S3D API rendering thing. Yeah. So, yeah, once again, we are loading into a world, and while that's happening, I will mention some other stuff that I tried in, like, the half a month that it took to get to this point. Originally, this project started off with Windows XP, but I didn't know at that time that there are no S3 ViRGE drivers available for Windows XP outside of the ones that Microsoft provides, and so it's impossible to get the S3 Mesa wrapper to work properly. And so after that, I had to downgrade down to Windows Millennium Edition of all things, because I was thinking it is meant to be a very cursed video. What's more cursed than combining all of this with Windows ME? Unfortunately, that does not work either, but for a time, I did actually get very close to getting the game running, but for whatever reason, it still didn't work. After that, I did also try to get this all running on a Pentium 4, and that did work surprisingly well, though it was using Windows 98 at that point. And so finally, I, knowing that, downgraded even further to this hardware, still keeping the graphics card, of course. And that brings us to now. So once it's done planting there, we should be loaded into a world. I still find it weird how it's like almost imitating stereoscopic vision with how the wrapper has glitched the game. Either way, you'll be able to see that it does run, but it's definitely not a playable experience. Give it a moment, it's just finishing up. And there we go, here we are in the world. So this frame rate is relatively low, not necessarily because of the graphics card though, because on the Pentium 4 system, it turns out that I was able to get about 10 to 12 FPS on average, and I feel like that may be because the card, or at least the wrapper file, S3 Mesa, and whatever it's else, might be rather CPU heavy since it's, you know, translating API calls in real time. And so that might be eating up all of the CPU time that this thing has available. But still, here we are running Minecraft on an S3 ViRGE from 1997, famously known as the graphics DEcelerator. It is incredibly hard to tell what's actually happening, but you can kind of make out some blocks. Like, I think this here is a tree. Oh, and I think I just fell into a hole. But, yeah. You can see the crosshair there near the bottom of the screen, and as well as the hand waving sometimes. This is classic version 0.31. And I can place blocks. You can see these stone blocks that I'm placing here at the bottom of the screen. You can just barely see them. There's the edge of the block. And now it's just barely close enough that you can kind of make out the texture as well. But yeah. It is a very pathetic playing experience. so to say. And even the menu screen is affected with the buttons being completely messed up. But we'll go ahead and close out of that now. And that is the video. Thank you for watching, and in a moment you'll see what this looks like when I run it on a 90 megahertz Pentium. So, switching out the CPU for Intel Pentium running at 90 megahertz isn't all too complex, though I will say that you have to switch out some jumpers. So let's see, we have to use 3.3 volts instead of the 2.1. So 2323. So these two jumpers here by the CPU cooler's connector, we'll have to change to 2.3 in order to give the proper voltage. And then with the multiplier, that's fine. And the front side bus, we'll have to change it all to 2.3 in order to reach just a 60 megahertz FSB. And combined with the 1.5 times multiplier, that will be enough to get this Pentium running at 90 megahertz. In the previous video, where, well, not directly previous, but in a previous video where I ran Minecraft on a 120 megahertz Pentium, I was able to overclock this thing to, 120 megahertz, and this time we're just running it at stock clocks for even more cursed experience. Let's start the system now. Get the phone to focus. And there we are, 90 megahertz Pentium. Okay, and just to kind of prove that this is still a Pentium, I'll open hardware info again, and it will take a good chunk of time to do that. We can go ahead and close out of this as well at this point. Come on. I don't want to click on it multiple times or else... Okay, yeah, it was already starting. Let that load up. Let it continue loading up. Okay, here we go. So we have our Intel Pentium 90, and yeah, there's the 90 megahertz clock, there's the motherboard and RAM, and of course there's the star of the show, the GPU, with its 4 megabytes of VRAM. So we'll close out of that, put the phone back on the tripod, zoom back into the screen, and now it's time for some Minecraft. I am slightly curious now how high, as far as Minecraft versions go, that I can go without it just crashing again, because originally I was trying this out with Minecraft Beta 1.7.3, but because the buttons are so messed up, it's practically impossible to actually navigate the menus and get into a world. But I did manage to get to start generating a world, but then it crashed, so somewhere between Minecraft Classic and Beta, there might be some playable version of Minecraft. Playable being, obviously, very relative in this case, where it might be possible to actually load up a world in, like, survival and, you know, save it. Because Classic, even though you can save the world, it's kind of hard to do with the menus and stuff. Either way, we're gonna go ahead and once again load into a Minecraft world. And of course, being a 90 megahertz Pentium, it's going to be roughly 5 times slower than the 550 megahertz K6 3 Plus. So, yeah, I'm just going to step away from the camera for a bit while it runs. Oh boy, this phone is about to run out of memory for the video. 420. Yeah. I only have a few hundred megabytes left on the SD card. This game better hurry. Come on. Okay, we're in. And obviously, as you can see, 0 FPS. Performance is absolutely horrendous because of that aforementioned, what I'm guessing is a CPU bottleneck. But yeah, if you want the absolute worst Minecraft experience ever, look no further than a 90 megahertz Pentium, an S3 ViRGE, and I guess 1.5 gigs of RAM. I'm sure that this can run on much lower because it's Minecraft Classic. I don't think that's going to be used that much. Maybe like 64 megs might work. I don't know. I don't have a stick that small as far as I remember. Either way, thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm out. See ya.